I played piano from 4 years old to 12, but I don't play piano anymore. I practiced figure skating from 6 to 13 years old, but I don't skate anymore. I did Carnatic singing from 6 to 9 years old, and for the sake of everyone's eardrums, I don't do singing performances anymore. I even did competitive bowling. Yes, it's an actual sport, at 14 years old. But I haven't gone to a bowling competition in years. So believe me, when I say I've explored a lot of things, I've explored a lot of things. And the truth is, I was never exceptionally good at any of those things. I wasn't terrible, I just wasn't great. I wasn't perfect, like so many other people I'd see in those same activities. And it's not just me. From peers to advisors to coaches to friends, I've noticed that when you first ask someone what their favorite hobby is or what they do for fun, they'll tell you something that they're proficient at, something they think they're close to perfect in. And what I've realized as I've grown older is that as we want to be more perfect, we shut ourselves off from a world of possibility. Now, I'd always heard the saying, fake it till you make it. And so I tried to fake it with many different things. But it didn't work out for me the same way it seemed to do for others. This formula didn't seem to apply. Now, the concept of fake it till you make it arises from the idea that if you continue to practice something, then eventually you'll be great at it. That if you keep faking success, it'll eventually arrive at your doorstep. Now, some of the most accomplished people will tell you that they just pursued their passions and kind of stumbled their way through life, where success fell into their laps. However, for most of us, the idea that by repeatedly pursuing something we're originally mediocre at can result in us being wildly successful seems like an unrealistic risk to take, and thus most of us don't even try. So I stopped playing piano after 8 years, because no matter how fast my fingers moved on the keyboard, the girl who played before me in competition was always more impressive. I stopped figure skating after 7 years, because no matter how good my spins and jumps were, the skater in the level above me always seemed to have a more impressive form. I stopped not because I wasn't good, but because I wasn't good enough. Because this desire to be perfect was greater than my desire to be better. So when the pandemic hit in 6th grade, I picked up my next activity, public speaking. And anyone who's ever been to a public speaking class before will tell you that the first piece of advice you'll get is to fake it till you make it. That if you act confident on stage, eventually one day you will be, and everything will fall into place as you speak. So taking this advice, I remember drafting my first speech, an expository about Walt Disney. Now, this was a draft that I had written for months, practiced for weeks, and delivered endless times in front of my bathroom mirror. But as I stood up in front of the Zoom camera and began to speak, my legs started shaking uncontrollably, and no amount of pressure or shifting or silent pleading in my mind was able to keep them still. Now, I later came to learn this was called a psychogenic tremor, a common occurrence of involuntary leg shaking that was caused by extreme anxiety or nervousness, a very common thing that many public speakers faced. However, to 13-year-old me, this was a sign of failure, an imperfection in my skill. And after I finished that speech shaking, I was ready to never give one again. So public speaking would have been added to my graveyard of hobbies, had it not been for the words of my public speaking teacher at the time. She told me that if the best speakers had focused on being perfect, they'd have never have stepped onto the stage at all. She told me that if we as speakers focus on every step we take, every moment of inflection of our voice, every movement in our hands, we'd get too caught up in the destination of finishing our speech and never enjoy the journey of delivering it. So this got me thinking, how does perfectionism connect to the concept of fake it till you make it? Well, over the last few months, I spent my time talking to friends, peers, mentors, and professors about their processes as they work towards transforming their simple interests or hobbies into tangible products or innovations. and I noticed they all had one thing in common. They all told me that, contrary to popular opinion, when starting out, they didn't have a very specific goal in mind. They knew that they wanted to grow and develop something that they loved, and that mattered more than the ultimate result. So when pursuing something like a hobby or a passion, their main goal was to improve, to get better at it, not to be perfect in it. And by accepting imperfection, they removed these barriers and weights of expectations that we place upon ourselves, leaving them free for creativity and success. The fact was that they didn't try to fake it till they made it. They tried to fake it till they progressed. So growing up, I was always told to put in 110% effort in whatever I did. Because even if I didn't get the result that I wanted, knowing that I had done my best would be satisfaction enough. So public speaking was perhaps the one hobby that I chose to continue to pursue, not only because it was the one that I loved the most, but because it was one that I accepted I didn't have to be perfect in. So 10-year-old me that stood with psychogenic tremors delivering my Walt Disney speech would never have guessed that a few years down the road, that same girl would be invited twice to speak on a global debate showcase in front of over 1,000 other scholars. That same girl shaking, delivering her speech, would never have guessed that she'd give an honorary speech to a prior Girl Scout CEO in front of a multitude of leaders and innovators. And she never would have dreamed that she'd be on stage delivering her second TEDx talk. And this didn't really fall under the fake it till you make it formula because when starting out, there was nothing I was trying to make. I wasn't focused on any destination or any goal of giving a specific speech or talk. I went along this journey, taking one step at a time, hoping that each speech I gave was simply better than the one before it. I was developing my abilities, unsure of where it would take me, but completely fine with being imperfect in it. So I don't believe in the concept of fake it till you make it, because there's a lot of things I didn't make it in. There's a lot of goals that I didn't reach. But I do believe in the idea of fake it till you make it or don't. I believe in the idea that you don't need to do something because it reaches an ultimate result. It's okay to pursue your passions and your hobbies simply because they bring you joy and because they help you grow. Because ultimately, the imperfections that shine through the cracks of our mistakes are what make all of us unique. And efforts for growth are never a waste. Because now, when I stay up late editing my speech and practicing, I know it comes from the resilience of me practicing a piano piece for hours before a competition. My body language and posture on stage, I know, come from hours spent on the skating rink perfecting my form and poses. My tone and vocal inflection that I try to implement in my speeches come from the many practices spent singing before performance as I train my vocal cords. Because activities and hobbies that we drop or we feel like we've failed in actually become a resounding part of who we are. These passions that we pursue in our spare time make us multifaceted and interesting people. They give us our personality regardless of whether we are perfect in them. Because in almost every field, the most successful people started out as hobbyists, not perfectionists. So I encourage all of you to step past that boundary of perfection and embrace being imperfect. And I believe that by striving not to be perfect, but to be better, we'll create a new generation of artists, innovators, and creators whose work and ideas can help make an imperfect world just a little more perfect. Thank you.